what a weekend at Oregon. There's some things happening up there. Honestly, I don't think most of the country knows. So I noticed, Pac-12 Pate noticed, I turn on the Oregon spring game, and it's like a big recruiting poster. They had 45,000+ people in that place. You know, that's the coast. They don't care about football, allegedly. Well, they do in Eugene, Oregon. And they got 45,000 up there. Picture perfect day. Dan Lanning, if I gave him cheat codes to control weather, could not have dialed it up any better. They had 45,000 and an army of highly rated recruits in there from multiple classes. Steve Wiltfong detailed that very extensively over on 247sports.com earlier today. DuckTerritory.com is our Oregon 24/7 site, so they'll have wall-to-wall coverage of that. If you're an Oregon fan and you're not subscribed there, you're really missing out. So I thought to myself, well, with all this positive energy up there and with all these kids on campus, might it be time to just go ahead and do the Oregon Mood Tracker? And yes, it is. By the way, all these 24 and 25 recruits on campus, Jesse comes to me today and he says, hey, Oregon's ranked top 10 in the 2024 team rankings. They're number 9 right now. That's going to fluctuate wildly. Some teams, just take it for what it's worth right now is what I'm saying. Oregon number 9. He said the next closest Pac-12 team is Arizona, and they're 37th. Woof. Not for Oregon. It's quack for them. Woof for everyone else. So what is the mood of the Oregon fan base? We do the mood tracker on the show a lot. That's just taking the temperature of the fan base. And I had to think long and hard, immunity, about the mood for the Oregon fan base. Jesse had some good ideas for names, but I settled on surging in silence because I don't think a lot of people are picking up what Oregon's putting down right now. And there's a reason for that. USC has taken a lot of the oxygen out of the room in the Pac-12. And that's not a problem. It wasn't a problem for Utah last year. It's not a problem for Oregon right now, I don't think. So recruiting's just humming. I don't think anything more needs to be spoken about that. Defense has been a primary focus since the day that coaching staff took over. And defense, I think from a personnel standpoint, has been massively upgraded at Oregon, but they also kept Bo Nix at quarterback, which doesn't count in recruiting rankings. But you talk to their people, which I have, and they'll tell you that's as big a recruit as we could have possibly signed. Keeping Bo Nix, convincing him to come back for one more year, huge. As you know, we went up there for the UCLA game last year, and Dan Lanning and his staff are always very accommodating and got a good feel for the vibe around the program. They got it better than about 98% of the other places that I go. And I don't always like doing the comparative thing, but they've got a really, really good vibe up there. And it's not just the people in the building that feel it, because that's not the goal. The goal is to make outsiders feel it, and namely prospective student athletes. Those are the ones who have to feel it. No one ever comes back from Oregon and speaks negatively about the experience. Now, you may think to yourself, yeah, Josh, but I read these articles, and kids always speak glowingly of every program they go to. Not off the record, they don't. You should hear what we hear off the record. We don't hear that stuff about Oregon, or at least I don't. The other guys can talk about whatever they hear. I don't hear anything negative about Oregon. Some of the kids that don't commit there still say, hey, I'm going to Pate State, but man, I love Oregon, though. Man, I really love Oregon. Does America know this, is my point? If the mood up there is surging in silence, does America know this? I kid you not, as I started to hint on Twitter earlier today that I was going to talk about Oregon on the show tonight, I had some of their fans reach out. I had a couple of former players reach out and say, hey, we wouldn't mind if you just didn't talk about us. We enjoy Lincoln Riley, and we enjoy USC getting all the shine. We got plenty of shine in the stadium yesterday in the spring game, but other than that, we would just prefer to sit over here and grind away, continue to load up layer after layer, player after player on this defensive front, while you guys celebrate Bear Alexander down the coast. Look at all these no-name guys we're stacking up here. You'll know their names in the season. You'll know about us in the season. But as for now, just let us surge over here in silence. That is top to bottom the attitude of that fan base right now. They know they've got something good going on up there. They got plus 280 odds to win the Pac-12. this year. That's the second best odds in the conference, right behind you know who. And I'm not here to take anything away from USC. You know how high I am on them. But there's a certain thing, or a combination of things, that teams who have won conferences and gone to have success in the playoffs have had. And one of them is depth, quality second-line depth on the defensive front. Oregon's building that rapidly. They are building that and developing that through the portal and traditional recruiting. There was no mystery to me that, Dan Lanning, a defensive guy, he was going to go in there and do that, but he's validating it. So it's going to be an interesting year out in the Pac-12 because you see it's going to be a conference full of really good quarterbacks. Who can get after the quarterbacks? Who can force offenses to be one-dimensional? Utah has been that team at times. I don't know anyone out there who's more equipped to be that this year than Oregon. They open against Portland State. They go to Texas Tech in week 2. The week 2 out-of-conference schedule for teams in Texas is amazing. Bama hosts Texas that week. Like you see there, Oregon goes to Texas Tech. Houston plays Rice. Someone's got to play food. There's another big one. Jesse, who does Baylor play? I cannot remember off the top of my head. But there's another big one. I'm stalling right now so Jesse can look it up. Anyway, here's my go-to phrase now. I say all that to say there's a lot of really, really good out-of-conference matchups featuring Power 5 teams from the state of Texas in week 2. Did Jesse find it? No, Jesse didn't find it. That's fine. Still, Colin says still searching. I don't know. You guys can look it up yourself. Utah. Yes, Utah. Utah plays Florida week 1. They play Baylor week 2. Good for Utah. Good for you. You shouldn't be punished if you lose one of those, by the way, or at least punished like some folks won't because they scheduled Roast Beef Tech in Catawba Community College. Oregon is doing some things. Don't be the guy at the water cooler second, third week of October saying, Oregon, man, I knew they were good, but I didn't know they were this good. I'm trying to tell you right now. They're not, though. They keep putting their index finger over my lips and trying to shh me. And I'm not going to talk about them every show, but it is my duty to inform you Oregon could be pretty darn good this year.